Hello, my name's Neil. Welcome to Recto for You. Today we're back on the BBC B from last week. Well, I might have some news on the BBC B. It might actually be fixed now. Who knows? And also, why I wanted to fix that was to install this board here. Now this is the 68008 CPU upgrade, or second CPU, which runs OS9 and its own operating system, hard disk controller and floppy disk, etc. So it should be fun. Now, I'm not claiming to be an expert or know what I'm doing on some of these things. I do know some things, but I'm learning all the way. Now, this is a hobby, and I'm sharing this hobby with you as I go along. So if anybody's got any comments with what I'm doing or how I can improve things, then drop me a comment down below. So without further ado, let's crack on. Hello, welcome back. Today we're back on this BBC B. This was the one from the last video, and if you remember, if you watched the video, I actually started with a continuous beep and I ended up with the upper half of the memory working was 16K and able to boot to a basic command where I tried to type in a program and it didn't work. So then I had the idea of downloading the program, putting it on the SD card with the MMC and then running the program there, but it turns out it didn't work then. But after further research after the video, I actually discovered I was running the program wrong. I should have been typing chain and also some commands before and changing the mode. So I did all that and tested the memory and it all passed good. Bingo, so half the memory was good. So then what I proceeded to do was I removed the other half of the memory, which was the lower half, and I replaced them all with sockets, as you can see here. What I did then was I booted it with the upper half but changed the memory for the lower half memory so I could test the chips, and I actually found two chips that are faulty. So I replaced all the chips and you can see what happens now when I turn it on. So as you can see, there you go. 32K, job's a good one, it's working. So you remember the main reason I wanted this working was to install this here once we got this working, because I know this is going to need some work. So this is what we're going to be working on here. It is a Kumana second processor board, and the processor in this is a 68K family. It's like the younger brother of the 68000, correct me if I'm wrong, which was fitted to the Amiga, etc. I think this one has the 8-bit bus compared to the 16-bit bus, but I think internally they're very similar. So it's a lot faster than what was in here, so it should be good. Now also it has its own hard drive controller, its own floppy drive controller, and also 512 kilobytes of memory. So quite a big upgrade from the 32K. It ran a different OS. It allowed you to run a multitasking software called OS9. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't know anything about OS9. I've never used OS9 in my life. I heard it may be a variant of it on the Dragons or Coco computers, I think they were called, in America, as well as used on some other systems which I didn't know about after doing a bit of research. So we'll talk about that later in the video, about what I found out about the OS9, etc. Now I know this board from the get-go isn't going to work. I know that because of the condition of it. Around where this battery is here, there's some broken capacitors missing, etc. But we've got some on order and some on the way, so we can get them replaced. We may end up replacing the whole lot. I'm not quite sure, but we do need to check out voltages, etc. before we plug this into BBC B, as well as maybe have a look under the scope, etc. So the plan is today move the BBC out of the way and have a look at this and try and get this working. But before we get this working, let's just have a quick look over this board so you can see what I can see. Without further ado, let's crack on. So here's this board in question, but where do I start with this board? Now, obviously I've got my ESD band on with working with old stuff like this, you never know, and I've took my Apple Watch off after it called the police last time. So this is a 68008 processor upgrade for the BBC B. It runs its own OS9. Now we'll talk about that a bit later. It also needs a ROM for OS9. I've actually managed to find the image, and we will be making that later for a video so we can try and get this booting. But first we need to solve some problems on this board, which you can actually see are actual problems. For a start, these capacitors here, you can see I can actually pull that one off. There's also one missing from here and here, and it looks like here as well there's one missing. So looks like we've got to replace 1, 2, 3, 4 capacitors to start off with. So I think that's a good place to start. So we'll start by replacing these caps and also give it a bit of a clean up around this area as well. So I happen to have ordered some capacitors here. These are replacement caps for it, and we've got 50 there, so if we need to replace all, we could replace all of them, but at the moment I'm going to try and replace the ones that are obviously bad. So let's crack on. So while I'm here, I just want you to look at this area here. Now we've replaced the caps, but this diode does not look good, does it? There's also another diode here, which doesn't look too good as well. So we'll probably end up replacing them. So that's the area replaced now. The 2 diodes have been replaced, and to me, I've cleaned up a bit. That looks a hell of a lot better. So we've hit our first problem. Around this area where the battery was clean it off. I touched this mylar cap and it just snapped off in my hands. Obviously the battery's got underneath, it's corroded the legs. Now I've cleaned the tracks out now, you can see they all look good, but I've noticed something else as well. Okay, here's the power inputs here, you can see. Now we get my meter on continuity. Now that isn't good, that's a short to the ground. So I thought, what can cause that? All these little caps are on this ground, and I was looking around here. Now we look at this cap there. That one there does not look good, does it? Hopefully that is the issue with the capacitors. So I'm just going to remove that one replace it and see if that short goes. Hello, so as you've probably seen, I've actually not managed to get any further with the board. I've had to stop. I've changed a load of capacitors. I need to source this capacitor here as a replacement before we can go any further. So I'm going to have to get one of them ordered. In regards to the short, it's still there. So what I'm going to do now is we'll move back to the BBC B because we need to get that ROM programmed and actually test the ROM in the Beeb as well. Got the chip in the programmer, you can see here. And we're just going to load up the software, get that programmed and get it installed. So the first thing we're going to do is just check that this chip is blank. So all we've got to do, we've got the chip selected here, which is a 27C128. We'll read that chip. Hopefully it should all be well, and it should all be full of F's, which it is F. So that is good. So now what we need to do is to go File, Load, Browse, and OS9 boot.bin. This is the file here. Now this file took me a long time to find. A lot of searching on the internet. You can see here, BBC version, VivaWare OS9 for the Cumana 68008 upgrade board. So it looks like it's correct. So what we're going to do now is to program this, click the program button, and off it goes. Fingers crossed. So that's all done. We can actually read it as well and check. Yes, it's got that on there. So that does look correct. So what we'll do, we'll just close that down and we'll try put it into BBC and see what we get. So we're just going to insert this ROM into the BBC, into this spare slot here. I nearly put it in back to front now. I was just testing you guys. Making sure the legs are lined up. And then just push that in like so. I have got my band on, so don't worry guys. So what we're going to do next, we're just going to power that on. And let's see what we get. So we got the OSSC grab connected up through the... So we got the beep connected up to the SCART, to the grabber, and we'll just turn it on. We should be presented with a basic, which we are, which is good. It's still working. It's still got 32K. So I think if you type in star ROMs, we should tell you what ROMs. Now there's MMF Turbo 68000. Oh, there you go. ROM 13 68008 on the BBC version 1. So it has actually picked that ROM up, so that's looking good. And to start it, you type start OS9. No, you don't. Start OS9. Yes, you do. There you go. So that looks like that part is going to work. So we've got something working, haven't we? So we're just going to break out of there. So again, start OS9 seems to want to boot it, which is good. So that part seems to be working. Because what it allows you to do, it allows you to boot your BBC, use it as a BBC. And then if you want to boot that external second processor, use a ROM and you type star OS9. It's got its own disk drive, so you have the operating system disk in there, or you have the hard disk, and it allows you to load from either the disk or the hard disk. As we're at this stage now, I did some research on OS9 and I put together a little bit of a presentation on what I found out about OS9. I found out some interesting facts about the OS. Let's just switch to that and have a look at it. So what is OS9? Let me share what I found out. OS9 is a family of real-time process-based multitasking operating systems developed in the 1980s. The first one, designed in 1979, was called OS9 Level 1. In 1983, OS9 was ported to the Motorola 68K assembly language and was called OS9 68K. So I guess this is the version that was in the Kumada BBC processor board. One of the best known computers to have OS9 was the TRS-80 or similar Dragon series stroke Coco computers. Now in the UK we had the Dragon 32 and the Dragon 64. All I remember of the Dragon computers were those damn Cuthbert games. Cuthbert in the jungle, Cuthbert in the zoo, Cuthbert goes shopping. It were all Cuthbert games, that's all it was. Also, the OS was ported to the Commodore SP9000, or otherwise known as the Super Pet. So now we're going to talk about Apple and Microsoft, two giants obviously in the computer industry. Microsoft tried to buy OS9 when OS9 was selected for the CDI operating system by Philips. Now this was the only part of the software I think that Microsoft were interested in obtaining, was the CDI interactive software. But at the time the owner of the company decided not to sell to Microsoft. Then in 1999 Apple released OS9. Of course it was the same name. So the owners of the original OS9 took Apple to court and unfortunately lost. The judge's reason was people would know the differences between the two and they wouldn't be confused. But apparently some Apple OS9 users did post on the original OS9 software forums asking for advice on the new Apple OS, not realising it was a totally different OS. So that's it for my short presentation. Please comment down below if you know more interesting facts. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this here. What I've managed to do is, do you remember that cap that snapped off the board? I've actually managed to scrape down with a knife and get to some contact points and solder some very thin Kynar wire onto the ends. Now I've put it into this multifunction tester, which is very handy, and hopefully if I press start now, it should hopefully test it. There you go. It is a 102.5 NF capacitor. So that is a 100 NF cap. So what I need to do is get some of them ordered and we should be good to go. So welcome back. It's another day. I've now ordered and sourced this capacitor here, and that's been ordered and it's on its way. It should be with me in the next 7 days, so we will get that replaced. But before I end this video this week, we have actually got further with this board. We replace these caps along here. We've replaced these two diodes. We've cleaned the board up a lot around here. We've flashed the ROM. We have tested the ROM and it works, which is great. So now what we need to do is try and sort this board out a bit more. Now I personally think that this has got a short on the 5-volt rail. So I'll just show you what I mean. When I put this meter into continuity, hopefully you can see that. Yes, you can. Okay. So we'll touch that. A reading of 0.1, okay? So we'll connect to the red to red, the black to black. Can you see that? It's 35.3 ohms, I think that is. So if I just turn it to ohms as well. Yeah, 0.36. Now is that short? I'm sure some of you guys will tell me. I'm not 100% sure because I've been around here now. I take readings on everything and I get 0.36 on everything. Now I have ordered a micromillimeter or something like that. The one that measures very, very precise basically. So that should hopefully help us to get better readings out of this and get a bit closer. So is that a short, guys? Let me know in the comments down below whether you think that's a short or not. Before we go, we're going to stick some power through this as well. And I've got a new toy. It's in this pouch here. You probably know what it is, but if not, we'll show you in a minute and see if that shows us any more as well. So let's just move the board so we can see. Say to there. I have got my ESD on. So I've got the power meter set to 5 volt. We're just going to clip the earth on. And we're just going to clip the live on. Now instantly that's drawing 0.7 amps straight away. So let's just switch the meter back on. and we'll switch it to volts. It's set to 5. I've tested it before and it was 5 volts. So let's just see if we can see that. So we're just going to check now what voltage we're getting out of here. 3.4, so something is dragging that down. I think there is a short here somewhere on this board. Let's just see if everybody agrees. Again, drop me a comment down below. You can see what's happening here. We've got 3.5 volt, 0.6, 0.7 amp on the draw, and it should be 5 volts. So that's drawing the voltage down already at the start. Now, the other thing we had was in here. This here's yes. Thermal camera, so we can see if anything's heating up. So let's just have a look at that and we'll stick the video on. So like I said before, it's drawing 0.7 amps on a 5 volt. The things that are heating up are the CPU, which is 34 degrees, 35, which I expected. Some ICs here. Still nothing screening red hot. Another IC here. It's like the hard drive controller. The 2 wires here. That chip there. These resistors is here running at 28. And the other chip there. And obviously this resistor here, this bank of resistors is running at 31. Resistor array, I think they're called, aren't they? Which is loads of resistors together. There's no heat at all coming off these down the bottom. And there's no heat coming off these ones here. So the standard temperature is like 24 degrees. And obviously these are about 27, 29. Is this resistor problem here 32 degrees? What do you people think? Drop me a comment down below. It could be those resistors there. So that was a conclusion. I didn't really find anything. None of these caps were going red hot, were they? So I presume all these caps are okay. This is what I originally thought it was a capacitor. Now, do you think that's a short? Again, let me know and drop me a comment below. Should all these SN chips light up here? Because they don't. There's only these few here lighting up and a few here lighting up. Is that because the chip isn't in? I've no idea. So when I get that milliohm meter, we shall go back over this and see what readings we get and see if we can find anything. But for now, until I get that capacitor anyway, I'm going to leave this video for this week. And I shall see you in the outro. So we made it to the end of another video. Now, we actually did get somewhere this video. It wasn't a complete loss. We've sourced a capacitor that needs replacing. We've cleaned the battery damage off. That's ready to be covered in some UV mask once we've replaced the capacitor. I think we found a short. If you're new here, then drop me a comment down below, even if it's hello, and like my video. And also, if you're new, hit the subscribe button. Also, while you're here, check out down below in the description and you'll find some links to some YouTube buddies of mine. You've got the likes of 8-Bit Retro Refix, Captain Commodore, Joseph, to name but a few, and they're all doing great videos and great things all the while, so go and check them out. Also, check out the Discord that's down below where you can come along and chat to us about projects like this, about what I'm doing wrong on repairing this, etc. And just come along and chat with us all. We're a friendly bunch and the link again is down below. So that's about it for now. I'll see you soon, guys. See you soon, guys. Bye.